Are we on?
We're on.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock. And the July 8th session of the Nantucket Board of Health is now in session. Just to remind everyone that this meeting is being visually and audio recorded. So if you participate, your voice and your picture will be recorded. We have a new fiscal year, so we have to have election of officers for chair and vice chair. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate you.
And I would second that.
Is there anybody else that would like this job?
Aaron's not here.
Meredith will be late.
Okay, okay. So is she allowed, are we allowed to nominate her for anything without her being present? She's currently the vice chair.
We could hold it out. Anyway, so there's one nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I oppose.
You still move.
It's still,
Well, I could refuse.
Oh, like Lyndon Johnson.
yeah, I have nominated, I won't run if elected, I
Yeah,
shall not
yeah,
serve.
yeah.
I could technically refuse.
But you won't, right?
I may do this for 6 months or so.
And then?
Well, then they have such a great board. Look at this bounty, it's 16 years.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, congratulations
Thank you.
in your reappointment.
Thank you. I thought it was 1 year, and so it's 3.
Oh, boy. Look what you signed up for.
here.
Oh,
Well, I get-
So vice chair, we need a vice chair.
I would do it, but I have personal problems on my part. It has dementia, so I don't have the time to really put into it.
Anybody would like to be vice chair?
And would you? Put your name out there. would
this
you
is
accept it?
this recorded?
Yes.
Yes. You could be vice chair, and the only duties essentially is when I'm not here. Next meeting, for example, I'm going to be zooming, so you'd have to run that meeting. I mean, I could run it by Zoom, but it's hard to run a
Yeah.
meeting if you're not on the.
Yeah. I'm perfectly capable of being vice chair or chair, but I am not well schooled in how, in the
Proper
etiquette of running a meeting. So if I were to do this, you'd have to give me a script.
We can help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a script.
Yes,
There's a script?
Yeah, for the beginning of the meeting about,
Yeah, we can. help.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Okay, so. we have
Malcolm knows it by heart.
I nominate Ann Smith.
and I would second that.
All in favor?
I,
All
Aye.
right, congratulations.
Okay. All right.
Any public comment for any item not on the agenda?
I would like, after the meeting, to discuss the,
We can do it at the director's report in our discussion.
okay, fine.
Any,
It's something I brought up before and it's probably a future agenda item, but the septic loan process that we had talked about.
yeah, we can
putting
do
it
that at the end.
in, yeah, just,
So let's do public comment. Is there anyone online?
I'm-
And I don't see anyone here, so we'll move on. No public comment. We have minutes to approve. From
Oh, yeah.
from
our meeting.
25th and June 20th and June 25th.
Mhm.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, did you receive the updated one from the 25th that I sent
Yeah.
you only about 2
Yeah.
hours ago? So
So let's, since they're
Yes.
separate, let's do, because there'll be corrections on the 25th, let's do June 20th. Any comments? Do I have any motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor of the June 20th minutes?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Chairman says aye, they are approved. And the 25th, John has some minor corrections.
yeah, I was in touch with the minute taker. We had discussed just a few minor, it said the adjournment, the meeting adjourned at 7:04 PM, so that was corrected to 5:04 PM.
Okay,
I think the
anything
top-
else?
I think the top, I said select board, now it's included, that says board of health.
Board of Health members, select
So
board members.
So there is no
You're right, so it's,
content or.
Okay, okay.
we need a motion to approve the minutes of the corrections as stated by John, which is essentially the time and then put the minutes to have a motion.
Motion to accept the amended draft 6:25, 24 minutes.
All in favor?
I,
I says aye, they're approved.
6:25.
Bank Street modification of septic variance to allow for new construction.
Yeah, I don't see, I know, back and on vacation, but this is, you're familiar with this lot, we may have talked about it, I think, before, 8 Bank Street, Codfish Park. It's a tiny lot with a small house, from probably 100 years ago. And so a few years ago, it was, serviced by a cesspool and was upgraded, to some
Just let the minutes show them there arrived at 406.
So it was, a Title V compliant, Title V system wasn't installed, but required a lot of, couple of variances for setbacks for the tank, leach field and everything to fit all that in the small lot. So there's really a case of maximum feasible compliance. Now they want to go ahead and put an addition on this building. So this variance would be kind of a modification to the previous variance that they received. In fact, that it would enable them to do the new construction on this variance that they're proposing right now. And prior, they had proposed a full basement, and now they're gonna go to a slab foundation, which changes. The soil absorption system would now be compliant by Title V. The tank is still about 18 inches from the foundation, so they're still not compliant there. My view with these is, the septic variances aren't really geared towards allowing people to do new construction, it's really to come into compliance with the septic system, so. I think maybe moving forward, the board or our department with approving the applications could state that the variance approval is for the septic system and, not to accommodate for new construction. The last comment I'd have about this is I don't see that they have a recorded deeds notice for a 1-bedroom. To limit the property to 1 bedroom, and included that in the packet.
Yeah, that was a recommendation.
And so that's something that I would.
So the addition is not a bedroom, it's just.
It cannot be a bedroom, the lot's only big enough, well, it's probably not, by today's standards, the lot's probably not even big enough for 1 bedroom, but that's what it's, the legacy of the property is 1 bedroom, so it can only be 1 bedroom.
Comments of the board?
does a new construction need an IA system?
It's been in the past, it's been the board and the department's view to install, maximum feasible compliance, the best system that could. To accommodate the new construction, that's not an addition of a bedroom, it's,
New
new construction,
is
it
just,
triggers upgrade of the system.
but new construction is just closed. It doesn't mention anything about bathrooms or bedrooms or anything. New construction consists of just enclosed.
So the local regulation is enclosed square. footage,
So that would say they would need an IA.
Right, they need to upgrade their system,
Okay.
So could they get an IA?
If they get in Title V, they can get an IA, can't they?
They can, they can certainly remove that tank and sort of replace that tank. With an IA tank or retrofit it maybe somehow. you know, if they're doing construction as it is to the house, I mean, they would be able to do that at that time. I would believe.
Would that be something we should ask them to consider? You know, just to, you know, ask Donna and the crew to,
Right,
if we want an IA system, can you relook at the proposed plan? The changing to the slab was a positive thing.
Yeah.
So that was good in construction, but they really probably should, if we're gonna stick to minimum use of variances, we probably should request it. Can they do an IA system? Can they modify this plan enough to do an IA system?
right,
And then come back with us with a yes or no on that. If they feel they can't, then why? If they can, then it's a lot easier to give the variance for with the deed restriction of 1 bedroom.
right, yeah. You know, I would say. The deed restriction should be
Yeah.
required.
Yeah.
you know, Technically.
So what you're proposing is ask them about an IA system.
Yeah, if they
If
would,
not, then come back and deal with
yeah,
John's
yeah,
proposal with the deed restriction.
yeah.
And it's,
If they say we can't do an IA, it's like, well, why? You know,
Mhm.
come back with the why of it.
They have to give us a reason why they couldn't put an IA.
And if
I mean,
they,
we can say, we'll give you the same, put an IA system in.
Hmm.
Instead of saying, why don't you work to see if you can put an IA.
okay, so you're saying take,
Say, well, I don't think we can do an IA, let's use a system that we have.
yes, I just say we
But
approve
if it's
it
new
on the condition of,
construction, new construction says they should have an IA.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we ought to do it.
Yeah, we've done, that's been done in the past, yeah,
Okay.
on, you know, undersized lots.
okay. So it'd be approval based upon
Based
IA
upon
system
IA.
and a 1 bedroom deed restriction.
is that a motion or is that a request?
I think you're making a motion and I'll second it.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Just to repeat the motion.
That,
You have, I said, Mary, no comments?
No.
Okay.
I was gonna recuse myself just because I wasn't here for the whole conversation.
you just voted Shannon, but.
Malcolm vice chair, so he's just handling the meeting.
Motion say that we will, we'll accept what they want, providing they change the Title V to an IA system.
Okay,
And then you, when you want to.
In the 1 bedroom
One bedroom.
deed restriction.
You want a second?
Yeah, I second that, yeah.
And so you're the motion, you're the second, all in favor?
I,
Aye. And one abstention.
Get on it. Get on it.
Okay, Wicked Island Bakery variance request for 105 CMR 590 FC 2-402 hair restraints.
yeah, by the applicants, here, if you want to speak at all, or.
Yeah, that's a.
Why don't you just introduce it,
Sure.
the issue, and then we'll let it just me.
Sure. So, yeah, the applicant is looking for, this is the front of the house staff, baristas or, you know, they pour coffee or,
No.
sorry, they don't even pour coffee in here. So it's kind of the front staff there, and it's been noticed by a few of the inspectors that front staff hasn't been wearing any hair restraints and that they've been handling unpackaged food in the front. And the code says the code allows for that type of staff to pour drinks and handle already prepackaged food products. And the inspectors have, as I said, noticed, you know, uncovered food or unpackaged food that they're handling.
Is it different than a waitress or waiter?
That's always kind of the, I want to say argument, but you know, the attempted rationale. You know, I'd argue that they're handling more food, you know, throughout a shift. But-
You just identify yourself and
Yeah, I'm Heather Woodbury.
why don't you sit over
You want to
here,
come on over?
join us.
Sure. I'm Heather Woodbury, and my husband and I own Wicked Island. And you actually got straight kind of to the point that I wanted to make, was that this is our 13th summer. When we were first starting out, when Richard Ray was here, and then even with Artel, we were told that our staff, front of house only, obviously, back of house, all has hats on. They're all hair restraint, that's where all the food production happens. And we were told that they were considered servers. We actually make soup from scratch, and the girls ladle it into a to-go cup, just like you would ladle it into a bowl if you were at a restaurant. And for the most part, the food that he's talking about that is, quote, unpackaged sits, I kind of drew a diagram, but then I brought pictures. It sits on this rack right here. There's 3 feet and then another 3 feet before you even get to the food. The kitchen staff is the one that brings it out of the oven, puts it on the rack, and then our staff merely grabs it with a glove or tissue and puts it into a bag. And I think we pose way less of a risk than a server who hangs out in the kitchen, waits for plates to go up on the line. I mean, I've worked in restaurants for almost 30 years, takes a tray and sticks it next to their head to carry it out into a dining room. The time that my front of house staff is around food that would be unpackaged, that there would be a possibility that hair would even get into it, is so slim. I mean, obviously, if it happened, they would let us know, and most people may not, but we've never had a complaint about hair, and our front of house does not prepare any food. Everything that's prepared, wrapping the breakfast sandwiches, all of that, trade up food, all happens in the back.
Questions from the board?
So what is the reason for having them not wear hats?
Well, part of it has to do with the fact that with this location, if you can see, we have a huge glass. We worked with you guys when we went into this new building, and the sneeze guard essentially is almost like a half an inch thick and over 6 feet. Like, you have to be over 6'8" in order for your head to be over it. And it makes it very difficult for the staff to hear. It's also very hot up front, and the kitchen staff is very prepared to be in a hot situation, where our front of house staff tends not to be. Their hair is always pulled back. Like I said, it's not like anyone's got their hair down and they're dragging it through food and things like that. It's always up. It's just mostly the hats from a standpoint of letting them stay cool up front, because that's kind of, it's the same thing as a server. Like, they're the front face of the business. And so because they're not in any food production, and we've been told up until last June that they did not have to wear hats. It was only in June that we found out, or were told, that they needed to.
You told me you need hats.
It came through an inspection. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was you or Sean. I think it was Sean. Sean came in and talked to my husband and was like, no one's wearing hats in the front. And my husband said, well, we've never worn hats, not in the last 12 years. And so we were given a warning. And then I went and I talked to John. He sent me this variance paperwork, and then our summer was too insane, so I didn't even file for it last year. But then we had an inspection a month ago. And the girls did not have hats on, and so we were given a fine.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, I think that your comment or question early in this discussion is correct, which is, what is the difference between this and a server? So I guess because a server does come very close to food at many times in their service. So John, could you explain to us what the regulations are for servers?
Yeah, I mean, in the code, it's that they present minimal risk of contamination to exposed food, equipment, utensils, linens, unwrapped service articles. So that's in the code. It's always for people with longer hair to have their hair pulled back, or have the hair restrained. That's something to protect food. I hear that rationale.
That's really ambiguous. I mean, and I've seen a server serve me a plate with themselves about, I don't know, 8 inches away from it, or so. And what you just said doesn't exactly answer it.
Right. I mean,
Well, if I interrupt, that's why we have the right of variances for specific examples. I was just interested what,
Yeah.
hear your Mary's
Well-
comments.
Yeah,
Then I have one.
yeah, I was thinking, why not?
But
Why not
Well,
wear hair restraints?
again, I think it goes back to one of like the girls presenting themselves, like kind of, like we allow them the freedom to, dress up, wear their shirts, their hair's up, earrings, make, all of that. And it kind of, when you've got that hat on and the bill's here and you're talking to someone through this thick glass and you've got the kitchen fans in the back, and like, it's kind of hard to hear. And there's a lot of, I'm sorry, what did you say? And I also think just mostly too, from the aspect of, we've been doing this now for 13 years and only last year was it told that it had changed and that we needed to, that we were no longer considered servers, or that this suddenly that we were now considered staff that handled a lot and unwrapped food. But to be honest, the food that is displayed is also on this table here. It's a 3-foot table. So you're talking, I mean, the food gets displayed by the kitchen staff up here and the girls are here, they're not, it's not in front of them where they're dragging their hair through it or any, like the risk I just think is so minimal that I feel like we, after doing this, like I said, for so many years, that I just prefer that the girl, like, just like an aesthetic thing, kind of, to be honest. I mean, because if you take the hat off, then you put the hairnet on, it just, if we're going to do that, then I feel like we're going to look at other restaurant.
I have to say, I agree with Heather in that, like, and it's been many years since I did it, but people are carrying, if you go down to a lot of restaurants in town, you're going to see the waitstaff carrying a big tray right next to their
Mhm.
head here and not wearing a hat. And so I do see that they're not, I mean, I think I would maybe put on to a motion that, they have their hair pulled back.
And then that's.
I mean, I think that would, I feel like that's fair, but I do think they're not preparing their food,
Nothing.
and they're not really doing anything that wait staff don't do in a restaurant.
When, just as recently as today, I was in another establishment where there was a counter where there was a kitchen where the food was prepared. You went and picked up your food by, they were similar thing. They weren't waiters or waitresses. They were food handlers or food distributors.
Right.
So if we enforce this, how many other establishments on this island are we going to have to enforce to be fair?
And I think, sorry.
I won't tell you the name of it.
I mean, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but like, I understand why Meat and Fish does. They're preparing, they're cutting your bagel, they're buttering it, they're assembling your sandwiches. But for the most part, if you look at other coffee shops that are doing what we're doing, they're not wearing, no one else is wearing hats. And so
So
I have a question for John. Has the code changed in the last batch of years, or is this an existing code that wasn't enforced?
It's so Massachusetts adopted the federal food code in 2018.
Okay.
They adopted the 2013 federal food code. So that's the code that we're on, the 105 CMR 59. So things did change in 2018.
Okay.
I don't know what 59 was prior to that. I would say that it's similar based on Art and Richard's comments. That if you only serve drinks that, it wasn't required.
Right.
The thing I have too is sometimes we get into these situations of things grow or, they offer different types of foods and now there's different, things just seem to grow constantly. And so it's just different scenarios. So, once you start allowing things, it's.
of course, then we would have to go,
Keep the standard.
you would have to take your valuable staff off maybe higher priority projects and go around the island. And you're gonna find other
Oh, yeah.
places like
True.
this.
I mean, I feel like if we think about more corporate places, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, those types of places, they always have a visor or a hat on. And they're only pouring coffee or, getting a donut. out of a rack, so.
I think they are preparing food.
They do, they put it in.
At
the hot-
Starbucks, they're
Yep.
preparing, and Dunkin' Donuts, they're preparing food.
Right.
It may be but they still are handling it as they throw it into the
It goes in the
microwave
toaster.
and stuff,
My
yeah.
preference is what I think we have, this is important, but we have a lot of important things here. I would like to see, the variance granted with the, as Mary suggested, with the requirement that hair is pulled back. But I don't know what the rest of the board, how that motion would go.
The only thing I'm gonna say, and I say it all the time. And I'm not one way or the other, if you give her their variance. Okay, that means everybody else on the island that's in the same position. Has the same rights as her.
Well,
And
it's-
if you make her put the hats on, we have to make everybody put the hats on.
I'm not sure we're ready to. In the priority of life right now.
Yeah.
You know, with plastics being dumped on our beaches, PFAS all over the
Okay.
place. You know, if that's the way the board wants to.
No,
Let me
I
ask-
think there's a precedent here of the fact that we're gonna have to enforce this in more than one place.
right,
Yeah, I mean.
And the variance is only good for a year, right?
We can make it as long as we want, can't we?
We could make it good for a year and see how the world is now.
Is-
a year
Yeah,
from
yeah.
now.
I mean.
And if
personally-
this becomes a major issue, then we can deal with it.
Well, is there the possibility that we could, by careful identifying, who is what, I mean, can we over time amend the regulations so we really clarify that there's certain situations that are fine and others aren't? I mean, not right now, like I said, we have a lot of other stuff, but it's, the problem's there until we do something.
Personally, I would like to memorialize these kind of things in a local regulation.
I think we have to go much deeper because we have to, as the Board of Health, we are interested in the health of our citizens. We need to understand the medical or epidemiological problems that having somebody's loose hair could cause to the eater.
Right.
And I think that this is just touching the surface because I really think that if, as Meredith says, you've got a tray or a thing, a couple of inches from your ear like this, or from your, I mean, if there is a risk, it's a risk across the board.
Mhm.
And if there is no risk, then I don't feel like, I mean, I can vote tonight, but I don't feel like I have enough sort of epidemiological evidence on why this is or is not dangerous or potentially causes illness, causes bacteria to fall into somebody's food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I think we have a much bigger conversation, honestly. And I just have one other little piece, other than a hat. Is there any other kind of sort of compromise, restraint of hair, restraint of, that sort of a thing?
Yeah, it's
that you
just
could-
a hair restraint. I mean, it could
It's
be
a lunch
hair
lady.
Like a net?
bandana
Yeah.
that goes over their head that keeps their hair in.
Is that accept? Because we were told bandanas and visors did not count,
I would accept a bandana that covers your hair.
but all the way over, not
Yeah.
like one that's like a head, like, right.
Yeah. I mean, hygiene and food temperatures are the number one, risks as far as spreading, communicable diseases, food stuff. So the other part of, is perspiration, which is, I think, a big part of the hair restraint part of it. So, if the code is if it presents a minimal risk. So, it's definitely up to the judgment of the inspectors, in my opinion. To gauge what that risk is. So, again, my concern is just that things grow and, nothing against Wicked Island Bakery. If it's another establishment that's kind of pushing the envelope maybe a little bit further, things start to get more.
Do I hear a motion, one way or the other on this? And we'll see how we vote.
Motion to do a 1-year variance. With the stipulation that everyone's hair is pulled back.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I hear a second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Very unanimously.
thank you.
So John has a year to figure this out.
I hear, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and just to, if you're gonna, I would possibly just look into like what tasks you can, because I think that that's kind of where it gets very loosey goosey. It's like carrying a tray is definitely closer, you know, for longer, or that the servers are in the kitchen on the line. And that's kind of where I make the distinction with us, is because our girls aren't even allowed in the, like, they pass through the kitchen to go downstairs, but they're almost not around any food production. It's just that they're on the racks behind them. But again, there's a 6-foot window. So,
And I'd like us to look into other hair control.
Right.
Other than hats.
Do you have any interns this year?
We don't.
This would be a great intern.
Yeah, to go and visit
You're
just
right.
every place and just see how the staff.
No, but this would be a really,
I mean, the law says this section does not apply to food employees such as counter staff who only serve beverages and wrapped or packaged food. I would not want to get into fresh baked goods having to be wrapped up to create more garbage and plastic into the world.
right.
And wait staff if they present a minimal risk of contaminating exposed food.
Well, I think you already need the vote, so.
well, well, I'm not gonna say it. Okay, condemnation.
I appreciate your
Okay.
time. Thank you. Good luck.
At 13 Woodland Drive.
Yeah, this came onto the agenda on Tuesday, after an inspection I had done on Monday, so I wasn't able to include, stuff in the packet, but I did email you all the
Yeah.
information. This has been, problem property and in the state of Wisconsin. It does have a new law in it. It's a junkyard is what it is. And I was inspected with the fire department and the property owner, and the property owner is very receptive towards cleaning up the property, which is great. But through our walk through this junkyard, we stumbled on a camper unit, and there was evidence that there was two people inside occupying the camper, so unless the board wants to grant temporary housing for this camping unit, it needs to be condemned.
Questions of the board?
No, this is, I mean, I think John and I had this conversation about totally different, but if, you know, we tell people you got to get out, whether it's their fault or, you know, they're just kind of caught in the crossfire of code violations. Do we have information or any way we can connect them to solving their problem of now being homeless?
They, they do have access to legal services, free legal services, which are up on, but you can call it.
Right, but I mean, do we give them that information as part of, you know,
Yeah.
this sucks to hear, but this is, you know, this is where you can get some help to advise you what to do.
Yeah, so in any housing situation with tenants, we give them the tenant, they were obligated to give them their tenant rights. There's a page on that stuff, which,
Isn't the owner then responsible for finding them housing?
they can be, yeah.
I thought that was.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of,
Condemnation we had where
Yeah.
they had to find housing also in like forever, I guess.
Right, yeah, there is that in the code, comparable housing to, you know, what they don't have, or till the end of their lease, so. Nantucket, I think it's, you know, I believe, we know some people pay week to week, of course. But, you know, some, you know, the more working class folks, right, week to week, you know, without leases at all, so. There's two in this camping. Yeah, but there is that in section.
I have some really big concerns about all of the stuff on this and how, I guess, it will be getting cleaned up and disposed of and all of that, because I think that, well, I saw the meeting where Eric Lee showed pictures that this really built up in 2018, from 2018 and on. But there are cars and golf carts and construction equipment, and I just am really concerned about our very fragile ecosystem of an island and any of those chemicals seeping into our soils.
So
So I don't know as far as the Board of Health, what our, or the health department job in making sure that this gets cleaned up.
well, technically,
Properly.
that's what we're doing.
That's what you're-
That's what I'm on now.
Okay.
That's with the fire department and just to really assess having this materials at first, which we found.
And
Oil and.
Yeah, there's a
other chemicals.
lubricant, so here's the trailer.
So,
So, I mean, can we, I mean, and I think it's in there, but I'm gonna, just for purpose of public, is it has to be done by a certified a hazardous material handler as opposed to the landlord saying, I'll take care of it.
right, yeah, so the landlord already has contracted a cleanup crew who subcontracts a different who does work with licensed site professionals. And that's required when there's a certain amount of oil spill in the ground or something like that. So when I was with the fire department, we couldn't determine any gallonage or high volume of any possible spills, but it's going to be a big recommendation that we recommend to the property owner if they haven't done it already. As I said, they were very receptive to us, you know, it's a junkyard.
Yeah, it's a massive
of
cleanup.
A few acres, it's gonna take some time, so the property owners hopefully will be done in 90 days, and I've actually already seen it when done, so. It's, you know, the fire department in itself is. You know, the first biggest concern is the whole way, fuel, hazardous materials, make sure that gets removed properly. And it's all documented in the chain of custody forms. So we're working.
So essentially, we know who is doing the job.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, I mean, you got
Is
this,
there a company that specializes in this?
yeah, there's a few, yeah.
And can we stipulate that they use that company or one of those companies?
Yeah, they've already engaged all these. I spoke with DEP on the phone actually today about it. DEP was, wanted us to exhaust all local resources before, you know, they were really, came down and were involved, but they're, you know, they're kind of saying, you'll handle it now, but we're right behind you. So if you need anything from us, give us a call. So, I'm fully confident that things are gonna be taken care of properly.
Need a motion to condemn the camper unit at 13 Woodland Drive.
You need a motion. That's your motion?
That's my motion.
is it just a camper unit we're condemning? Or,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe we
yeah,
should
what is
address
the,
the rest of the property.
Well, the camper unit was occupied and doesn't have approval to be occupied. It doesn't meet, you know, the housing standards. So,
okay, so that's,
so that was just the basis of that. The whole inspection of the property is a whole separate one. So,
Okay.
and we're, the property owner is going to submit, probably monthly reports of progress that's done, everything. So, and when I spoke with DEP today, I said which company was handling it, which is Robert the Hour, but they subcontracted this group Boston Green, which DEP is very familiar with. He said, yeah, that's, they'll take care of it, so.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the condemnation of 13 Wood Drive to the trailer camper unit. Do I have a second?
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jones is aye, it's unanimously approved. Discussion of well regulation, chapter 386. That's the regulation that we put to effect. It went to effect on January 1st. Requiring PFAS determination on the change of property ownership. And there's been some discussion about that since break. However, what you do when you detect detectable level or toxic level. So it has been suggested, it's up to the board, that we put a halt on that until we have some better advice from the people, which we are sort of waiting for something official from the state. I don't know what your thoughts on that. I don't know your thoughts on that, because you're the one that's getting the reports.
Well, I think there needs to be a few updates regardless of that you left. There's a few things in there, it says we're to issue a well certificate, and I think that's a little too much paperwork, to be honest, for a department. We've never issued the well certificate, approved of a permit.
You have nothing to do.
Right.
You're gonna have to have all these short-term rentals.
So I think some of the enforcement, the language maybe in there needs to be updated a little bit. To help us out with that. There's a few elements that are said to be tested for, which we don't through Barnstable County. Arsenic, we don't test for that. And I think we need to focus, there are filtration systems, the most common one is the granulated activated carbon. And, once that's contaminated, now we have to think about that going to the landfill and how we're getting rid of that. So, I think that's a big thing down the line here. We really need to start considering this as well. So, of course, first step number one, we want everyone to have good clean drinking water, of course. It's, we gotta, after that, start thinking about disposal of this, hazardous material. So, it's a little bit of a flurry, I guess, and.
Yeah, so do you? I hate to amend a regulation when we've just passed it. But we have to admit that it may not be the best work we've done.
I mean, the other issue is that, PFAS is real and we're getting more data points, and we talk about having data to make decisions. So we're getting more data points by having this testing done. And like I could speak for our section down at Nantucket that because one or two of us have found it, other neighbors are starting to test too. So we're really kind of starting to develop, where that pocket is, or if it's totally out there, in terms of the spread. I mean, the other thing is, to give information when people pick up a bottle and says, if you test positive, here are resources, is really easy. I mean, there is tons and tons of information out there. And what filters, I could give you a list of five or six companies that do filters because we had to do the research for it. I mean, that information's out there. So, rather than saying if you test positive, contact us, it should be here's the bottle and here's information. If you get a positive test, these are the things you should be doing and things.
So that's on the bottle already?
No, I'm saying, but in the packet, because when you get the bottle, there's a couple pieces of paper there. There's a form to fill out, and there's that. To
Oh, I
put
see.
information
The testing
in
bottle.
the
That's
testing
what you're
bottle.
talking
Yeah,
about.
the
Okay.
testing bottle when you pick it up.
All right.
And if it says, if you were to test positive for PFAS, these are steps you can take, and who to call, types of filters that are available. At least they can start acting immediately as
So there
opposed.
is information.
I suspect if we asked a couple of people, we could probably put it
I think I
together.
sent an email out to all of
Yeah.
you that talked about where you can look up filtrations and information about it, and I think that was all evidence-based information that I sent. I really feel amending this to take out the PFAS testing would be going back in time, and I am very against changing the regulation because I think that this is, and I don't know if everyone had a chance to watch the non-stick nuisance continuing medical education that I also sent out, but these are real health risks. And if we are allowing people, or we are out saying, oh, we don't know what to do with it, so we're not gonna test for it anymore, then we're just gonna keep exposing more and more people. And these are real illnesses and real cancer and real things that people are exposing their mothers, their fathers, their children, their dogs, all to these things. And I just feel like we may not have all of the answers, but we can test for these things and give people the information that maybe they can't drink the water in their house, but it's only 20 or 30. So yes, they can shower in it. They just can't drink it and cook with it. So I really feel like it would be a disservice to our community.
I don't disagree.
I just have a question. I'm in the real estate business and I'm in the process of selling a house. They want the water with the well tested. So what are we testing it for? What do we know is good and the buyer can say, okay, I'm satisfied with that? Or,
Well, it's not the buyer's decision, it's
Where-
the test results. You know, above a certain level, you're considered unsafe. Below a certain level, you're considered
No level of safety.
safe, but you know, I think you can drink, but it's still not, 0 is safe.
yeah. I
Between
know.
0 and 4 is kind of that buffer zone right now.
So, I mean, is there a number that we can go by that when we sell a house, we say to the buyer, this well has been tested and according to the way it's
And
tested
this is
now,
what, this
it's
is
all
what,
right?
this is what the results are.
Currently, our website says that if it's under 20, you should just keep monitoring it, which is actually incorrect. It really should be if you test positive
Yeah, I
at
think
all,
John is
then
gonna,
you should be, because
Yeah.
no level is safe.
John's gonna.
Yeah, we've been talking about, we need to,
Always.
once we have the environmental contaminant administrator back, it's a real big effort, because all that. Those guidelines, you know, they came out with the EPA in April, but also asked DEP updated their private well guidelines in May, late May. So yeah, we want to align with that. I would just comment on the regulation, it's just the enforcement end of it. As far as the requirement's been a little tough, I've gotten a little better and figured out different ways to track all the property transfers. So before it was kind of just things that have been brought to our attention, emailed in, but now we're able to track it better. Which of course takes some time and resources, so but it might need a little attention as far as the language and you know, how to make people responsible that don't have the test done, so again, I think much of it is, you know, parallel with Title V, but it still doesn't quite incorporate the language of Title V.
Do you receive, whether it's through a real estate transaction or private, do you receive the test results from the lab? I mean, independent of someone giving them to you, do you get the results and the owner, or how do you get results?
We get the results emailed from Barnstable.
Okay, so you're getting them, so we're getting that done.
So the
that-
ones that are done through Barnstable County.
Right,
Which is who we use and offer the tests that do our office, we get emails of those results.
Okay.
So.
and is there, so if a real estate agent doesn't tell the owner that they have to get testing done and, you know, they've had to get the house is sold, new owner finds out that, hey, this is, I'm at 80, you know,
Right.
is there, what goes back onto the real estate? I mean, is it just say, hey, they screwed up, or, I mean, is there?
So it's on
You
the
know, who,
owner,
who ultimately is responsible for this?
the person who sold the house.
Okay,
So once the
so the owner,
transaction's taking place, it's a little difficult to
right,
try and.
but the real estate professionals, the one in the middle, kind of, it'll be that kind of advising both sides as to what is.
Yeah, and there's been, I would say, in the past 2 months, of much more awareness.
Okay, that's good.
Real estate folk or just people in general, that are planning to sell the house. The test is good for 1 year, so anybody that's kind of thinking about it, you know, can kind of go ahead. Which is another, you know.
Because 5 to
we
7
had a
weeks.
test done in October, let's say, so we see that transaction kind of go through a database that we're trying to set up to make sure that that sample was done, you know, so.
So if someone's trying to sell their home, the wise thing sounds like before they get to that point or in the very early stages is to have this test done.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, there are ways to rectify the problem, because if you couldn't, you essentially have made the house unsellable.
That's another,
So I, as somebody who has their house on the market, I'm on the town water, so it's not an issue for me. But I'm acutely aware of those things that could sort of negate a sale. And I just want to be sure that there are ways that it could be rectified.
No, absolutely. There's different, point of entry systems and point of use systems. It's again, it's kind of like if your numbers are over the limits, if your septic system's out of compliance, now they gotta, the new owner or the previous owner needs to upgrade the septic system with the sale. It'd be kind of the same scenario here where they need to install the point of entry, treatment center. Where the water comes into the house from the well.
And that would be one of those sorts of filters that we've all been talking about.
Yeah, there's different ones. Again, there's the installation of that. Would be done by a licensed plumber. The maintenance of that, the waste that's gonna come from that, any replacement of media or cartridges or something of that nature. We need to look into how that gets disposed of as well. So unfortunately, those are some of the other complications that come with those.
So I'm not hearing a great surge of interest in doing anything with this at the present time.
I'd rather,
I don't think.
I'd rather work on the issue that presents than go backwards and say, let's really
Mhm.
try to solve.
Yeah,
it. I mean, it's too
I agree.
immediate a health
Yes.
issue.
I agree.
I was asked to bring this up.
Yep.
Brought it up.
And we greatly appreciate it.
So we're not gonna do it, except at some point in the usual time of the health department editing
Yeah,
various rules, it'll get edited.
sometimes it's just a little language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're not gonna sweat over it.
Right, but I do think it is important for there to be very specific guidelines to what you do if, in fact, you're unlucky enough to find out that you have a bad result.
There are things, and various things are in the kit, things that Mary has sent.
I'm not saying
We
together.
need something,
Official
need
things,
something very official.
official,
Yeah.
yes.
We're working on getting something from the state.
We are, and just our website in general, our website's like 4 years of accumulated, meetings and documents and everything. So that's one of the focuses now is
Right.
Updating the website and kind of maybe categorize things, different projects the town's worked on, filtration systems and stuff of that nature. So we need to improve on being able to get.
Okay,
It changes faster.
Well, that's another,
Yeah.
different, like I said, projects or areas of time.
This kind of rose into actually have a separate discussion of airport health issues. What we really want to talk about, because the last meeting we talked about putting something together for, Yep. Putting something together, a letter to the airport commission. Terry drafted something, it's in your packet. Any comments on that? Then I have kind of a philosophical comment.
Yeah, I guess, just from discussions last meeting, it's like we may not have control, but if we can have better communication, we'd be better off. And that was kind of the theme of the letter. And then, can we do things that we make conscious decisions to improve communication as opposed to hoping.
I'm just challenge ourselves. What does that mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, is it meeting with them and saying, okay, how do we do this? I mean, it's like, you guys got your rules, we have our rules, and we're all both serving the same people. We're serving the same community. Rather than be at odds, how do we communicate
We want to
better?
be partners here.
Yeah. And, everyone, we can dig in. But then, I think as we've proven many times before, that digging in doesn't solve problems a lot of times. So,
But I just want to know if we're going to meet with them, what are we actually going to do?
ask them to have direct communication with them on a regular basis, minimally.
Here's a direct communication right here.
I'd be happy to join you if you'd like me to.
Please do so.
come on around.
Are you gonna allow any public comment?
We'll yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Arthur Gasparo, I'm Chairman of the Airport Commission. And again, in an effort to be collaborative and improve, if there's communication, if there's something specific that the board, feels like you or the airport isn't doing or needs to do differently or better, that needs to be communicated to the airport. The airport's been working with licensed site professionals, Mass DEP, the running the water lines. I mean, I think my sense of things from when I first found out, from the minute we found out really about it, started in Mattoxam. The PFAS was, how do we get clean water? And to your earlier conversation about the wells, that started off with the POET systems. That was the first thing that could be done. Of course, that creates a filter media storage issue with that. Then you have to handle those. So really the best solution is getting town water connections and doing that. And then, the airport has transitioned to PFAS free type of foam. It's an industry wide, community wide, nationwide issue. We're involved in I guess I could say, I don't think it's, there's ongoing litigation with respect to the, contamination, and I don't think I could say too much more about that, but there's, efforts to, again, protect our community, put Nantucket first, Nantucket citizens. The airport operated using the foam that was mandated, right, for firefighting. And so there wasn't, sort of any kind of a voluntary type of a situation. And I still feel that the best thing is to, continue to do the monitoring, the studies, and then the connections as, as we can. There's a situation with, and I know people it's not something that's easy to sometimes accept or understand, but with airport revenue and grant assurances and the money that comes from the FAA, what you can and can't, spend the money on. And that's why they were able to do those connections on all the homes that were over the 20, and we couldn't do the ones that were below because the 20 was threshold. Now that threshold has changed, I believe, and I'm fairly certain that as part of what we're working on right now, the airport's going to be able to connect more homes using that revenue and not have it be considered revenue diversion. So, the goal is getting, clean water and understanding, the location of the impacted areas and the plume. There's more. We're working right now on what's known as the phase 2. And then it will be transitioned. The next is sort of the phase 3 approach with Mass DEP, which gets into, and I'm a little outside of my wheelhouse. I've learned a lot here on this stuff, but this is really licensed site professional, stuff. So please don't take this as possible. But the next step is really then putting in some more monitoring wells, particularly west of the airport, and trying to understand, get more information on direction of groundwater, the plumes. There are some other sources, as I think you're well aware, on the island that aren't from the airport of the PFAS. They have these different signatures for the different chemicals, trying to identify, where are some of those others. So I don't think it's just an airport issue either. And I think you're aware of that. The town is facing that. So, but all that being said, what's the end goal is, I think, clean water for domestic use. So that was a lot. I want you to know how much, the airport talks about this we have this on our agenda every month. You're also welcome to come to our meeting, accept public comment. If there's something else that you feel that would be helpful, I would say, let us know.
Or could we be part of the minutes distribution so that we can see what you folks are talking about and the status of things?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all
rather
posted
than-
online, but at the same time,
I
if you
guess
would,
I think, again, proactive is like, we're giving you the information as opposed to you can go find it.
yeah, if that's through you, Mr.
this
Chairman, I
Might
could
be small.
certainly.
I'm not chair.
No, I don't. I want to talk. I try to respect the chair, so I mean the process more than anything is.
You're better at that than I don't want the minutes. They're online. Public comment.
Mary Leffrey. I do think that the airport has really tried to do everything as far as the PFAS. It was not their fault. This was a big pile that you did not know you guys were stepping in, and I appreciate that I now have clean water. I would love there to be more communication with the neighbors, because I saw yesterday online, and Art and I he emailed me about this, that they're doing night construction tomorrow or tonight, sorry. That will be a lot of noise, and I feel like they're not communicating that well. I think we really have to, I don't know how the town or the airport feels about doing monitoring for people's health for the future. I had surgery on my thyroid on Tuesday because the risk of my PFAS exposure increased my risk of developing thyroid cancer 56%. So I just think we have to be this all has to be taken very seriously. And I think in the beginning, people were not notified as well, and the communication was not as good. And I'm hoping that the communication improved between the airport and the neighbors. About noise, about PFAS, about all of it, because today, finally, there was no lake PFAS for the first time in, I've lived there for 5 years. A big rain, and it was the first time there was not a lake, which was very nice to drive through this morning and not have to drive through a lake of contaminated
That
water.
was more the town's issue than the airport's issue.
Right, but their runoff from all that soil that is there is all contaminated. I do have concerns about them dumping the contaminated soil into the sand pit as a.
I agree. I think
Private
all that
citizen.
makes sense, but
I think there's probably a better way to handle that.
if you find a better way to handle it, I'm sure.
Well, I think that
The other
isn't
chair
Clean
will-
Harbors the company that will take stuff like that and dispose of it. But
Not necessarily, but those are things the town is trying to figure out as well. So I think these are my thoughts. I would like the two of you, at least you seem to be talking to each other, and
Certainly, no problem.
that's great. And the communication is that way. My sense, and if anyone on the board disagrees with me, I think I appreciate the letter, but it's just a letter saying we're gonna talk. Maybe like once a year, you come and give a report to us on environmental issues, or we're welcome to come to your meetings. I just don't want to sit down in a meeting and have us look at each other and say, okay.
Agreed.
I mean, we're concerned about the health, you're concerned about the health.
Absolutely.
You have a lot of issues, ours general health, so we just want to make sure. I'm not saying look over your shoulder, but be involved and make sure that things are well. I don't know.
Also, your future projects, I mean, if you know, like, whether it's, even if they're approved, I mean, what is, what projects are coming down, maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the road, and, to be able to kind of look proactively at what might be some of the health concerns that we might have that you can work into your decision making, because again, we don't control, but we are concerned about the health of the community. And different projects will have different implications potentially.
Well, to that point, through you, Mr. Chair, we could certainly provide you with our capital improvement plan, which is, goes through for every fiscal year as part of the their public documents and as part of the CAPCOM process and finance committee. I could certainly ask that be forwarded. That's good. There's a lot of planning, long-range planning that happens at the airport. It's part of getting those funds. And then, the environmental permitting, in order to get all the funds, it's years, it happens. I mean, all of the stuff, I know the Sylvan, was touchy in this stuff, but there is that level of permitting, and then the oversight, really Mass DEP is very much involved. But again, I fully respect the work in the position of the local board. So just, in terms of it being informed, I think we certainly could provide you that. You'll see what the projects are.
Because I mean, you guys
and
don't
any
do
questions at any time, again, feel free. I think whether it's on an individual basis or, through, I mean, whether it's through directly to me or through the staff, I think that we're all committed, both as volunteers in the airport, to to working on these things. And the noise, I think we could talk more about it. I don't want to sidetrack here. I mean,
No.
I've been working on it for years. I promise you that. And there's new noise monitoring stations that are going in, new ramp management, new signs went up last month about fly friendly, trying to get them to shut down the APUs. I share the concern. You know, they need to run them for a certain amount of time. The airport is on that plan is proposing in the next capital year to buy a $1 million unit that will essentially provide preconditioned air. Part of the thing that they do is they run the jets for the exits. So now you got to buy this piece of equipment that then can do it. That's, you know, going to work for at least one jet. But can you get them to shut down? How do you do that? And, you know, things like that, ramp management, monitoring. As of 3 months ago, we've started having an actual report at the commission about the APU run times and uses. So the efforts are there.
Are they effective? I mean, are you feeling that it's kind of
I
getting?
think so. I mean, I want to be, I want to be an
Yeah.
optimist and think that the work that we're doing as volunteers is helping and, so I hope so.
Any other questions for our? I think I'm just gonna invite you once a year,
I would be happy to join you.
and you can send Gary your plans.
Will do.
Yeah.
I'll send them through John.
Yeah,
Send it
yeah,
to John,
yeah, send it through John,
Gary
yeah,
wants-
because
Will do.
Gary is his, he can be a subcommittee of one and bring up things.
Feel free. I'd be happy to
And I have a
I'd
quorum
be happy
of
to have a
one.
cup of coffee
Yeah.
as well. Same.
Quorum of
anytime.
one, if I don't attend, there's no
We're, you
meeting.
know, I think. Well, I've said it all.
Thank you.
We'll
I
take-
do think,
Yeah.
and this has nothing to do with the air, really. It has to do with PFAS in general. And as you pointed out, there are different signatures that tell us where it's coming from. It's coming from other multiple sources. I think it is incumbent on us as the Board of Health to make a public service announcement about PFAS, about the danger of PFAS, about the fragility of this island, not pointing fingers at people that it's the airport, it's the this, it's the that, but saying you need to know this, you need to know that it's bad for you, you need to know why it's bad for you. You need to know that you probably should be testing your water if you're not on town water. Whatever other things maybe people should be testing for, and then a very brief, clear summary about what can be done about it. I think that is our job as the guardians of public health on Nantucket.
I don't disagree, and hopefully we'll have something soon from the DEP. It's because they don't have more official, at least what to do. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, Maris set of stuff, I have stuff. My email's full of people.
That's too overwhelming. People need
I know.
boop, 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 boop,
And
And then
yeah.
references if you want to go deeper.
John is struggling to keep his website.
We're gonna get.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make that comment because there's a lot of finger pointing and stuff, and it's really more than that. It's a PSA. It's a public health, you need to know this.
Right.
Good educated public.
Yeah, focus on the public health on it, I think, kind of, you said, also saying, we have these projects around, around the island, getting a lot of attention, but, not this week.
Yeah, we need to coordinate a little bit with the state, because the state's doing a lot of things that we don't even know they're doing. They're not telling us about it,
Oh, that's,
and that's one of our
Pretty
kind
bad.
of goals, is to get that under control. And then we'd be a lot better off.
Well, we can do it. Nantucket's done a lot of
Yes,
times
yes,
before.
there.
I think like a PSA video would be really great that you could play at like the Dreamland, on the boats, in the airport. Or on NCTV, like that would be a really, I
In
feel like.
school.
Huh?
in school.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really effective way
Which
to,
video is this?
The one we're gonna,
Make one.
yeah,
Oh.
making a public service video about all of this and.
John's gonna be
distributing it
the
island wide that a
We
lot
can
of
do that.
people.
We've done videos before. We did a couple on ticks. We'll do one of this. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
It's just like the tick issue. It really is to educate the citizens.
I think we're gonna do one. Be our project. Meredith can be co-producer.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
sir. Yeah, we think they're good.
Good.
Take some time and correct and get it, but I know people to help us. Well, I can
Okay,
produce it.
great.
We'll get it done. All right, here we go. Remand hearing to consider IA system at 4 Main Avenue. Do we have Alex with us?
Yeah.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir. How are you?
Excellent.
Okay, join us, please.
That's a one way to enter.
Announcing our appearance. For the record, attorney Arthur Reed and Arthur Sparrow, our engineer, as you well know. Is here with me.
Double hat, yeah.
All right,
Actually, I roped Art into coming here for this, so I have to apologize to him for having to be on the other thing as well, but
okay.
I'm sure he doesn't
We're
mind.
just all struggling with that whole issue. All right, so why don't we get going?
Yeah.
John, you want to give us a little background and then we'll listen to Arthur? And then we have attorney for the town here,
Alex, yeah.
because this all came from a lawsuit, so we have an attorney.
Yeah, I'll lead off. As you know, this matter is back before the Board of Health as a remand from the decision of the appeals court, which overturned the denial of the application for an IA system. You were upheld in Superior Court, but then it went to the appeals court, which reversed that decision, and then further appellate review was denied by the SJC. Just to go back to the beginning on this, an application was originally filed for an IA system after the Board of Health had sent a letter out to this owner as well as other owners in this part of Nantucket, directing them to take steps to install an IA system to replace the existing septic system, which was in technical failure because of groundwater separation. And in accordance with that, Arthur Sparrow prepared the plan and brought it before the Board of Health. And in fact, it was denied on the basis that this was within the tight tank district and that it was required that all systems installed within the tight tank district be tight tanks under Regulation 49. In fact, as the court found, that isn't what Regulation 49 said. And that tight tanks, as is clearly indicated in Title V and in other in the regulations issued by the town, is intended as a last resort. Now, and the regulations provide that the Board of Health may, not shall, require tight tanks in the tight tank district. In fact, this is a much larger lot than many in the tight tank district. Tight tank district being, as you know, whatever is on the other side of Millie's Bridge. And a completely compliant Title V system can be and has been designed for the site. So it is not a last resort situation. And since a compliant system can be and has been designed, we submit that that system should be approved by the board and that the tight tank requirement should not be considered as being applicable in this under these facts. That's basically our argument, and that's set forth in the letter that I've submitted. You have you have copies of the appeals court decision and the other materials. And I know we had some difficulty at the beginning of the meeting. I was actually going to attend on Zoom, and then when I couldn't get online, came over here. I guess it's been fixed now. I believe my evidenced by the fact that Alex is on. I believe my clients are also on. Not that they have any further presentation to make, but in case you have any questions of them as well as of Art and me.
John, do you have any comments?
Well, there's a long history with this one, so, I know they said have a lot of comments. I would just try to focus back on, 2015 when the regulation, the tight tank district was passed. All in regard to protecting the environment in this area due to high groundwater in the area and the runoff into Nantucket Harbor and the ability to control nutrient loading into the harbor. To me, it's a whole funny scenario. It's been pointed out that tight tanks are a last resort, which in most cases they are. However, in this one, it's more geared towards the importance and fragility of the environment in this area. And to me, so much that it's a surprise that DEP even considered approving this whole area as a tight tank district. As an addendum to the comprehensive wastewater management plan at that time, 2010, and then this was 2011, I believe, sorry, and that was added into it. So from that standpoint alone, I think it's, it shows DEP's respect for, the environment in this area. And I had an email from Jeff Carlson in Natural Resources talking about, natural resources as support of the tight tank district and the regulation, all based on the estuary plan for this 2000 and
Estuary.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
from 2010. This property, it was in technical failure, so it wasn't meeting the proper groundwater separation, which is the main thing with the septic system to protect the groundwater. This property is also in the Nantucket Harbor watershed, so there's actually properties over in those that aren't in the Nantucket Harbor watershed. This one
Because
is
it drains this way.
correct, more towards the harbor, yeah. Which is the main concern there, so. And I know the board back a few years ago denied the application for an IA, and I think it was the right decision. I think the board had all the authority to do so. The regulation was developed for a reason and approved for a reason. And as I said, I think it's the fact that Mass DEP even considered it as being okay, kind of speaks volumes to how important it is in this area, so.
Yes, it was, regulation was adopted purely on an environmental issue. It is an environmentally sensitive area. It does drain to Nantucket Harbor. It's quite possible someday this whole area will be in harbor itself, which would be a tragedy if we had septic systems there. We do have to deal with the board and the regulation of the law. Any comments from the board?
On the way over here, I figured I live in Nantucket, so I went and looked. And
Terry, and Virgin.
okay, and there is no California Avenue there. I mean, it's on a map, but the salt marsh goes up to the property. I mean, from the Ames, from Millie's Bridge.
Where's California?
Yeah, it's a
The
paper.
property goes.
There's no road there. their property borders the salt marsh now.
No, there's a road there.
At California Avenue, at the end of the bridge, there's a road. I was just there and there's no road. The salt marsh goes all the way up to here now. And I can. That's from the bridge. That's the house there. And
I have Google Maps.
the thing is, there's not as big a buffer zone as,
Just,
and that's my concern, is that the salt marsh is really, right up to the property line.
why don't we turn that down?
Yeah, no, that's fine. When it's off, it's really hot.
It was on, I can't hear.
Can we maybe open a window, maybe? Or-
I said, go ahead.
No, I'm just, so my concern is that
Have you two agreed that there's a road there or not a road there? There's a road on the map.
there's a road on the map.
Oh,
There's a road on the aerial from
Yeah, well,
just 2023. And as a road on my survey, I located it.
And where's Ames at?
Ames is right here.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like it's much of a road, but
Oh, yeah, that's the road. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it looks like it's a good storm away from falling from not being there, but yeah.
That's why I turned around.
This is Locust.
And he says here, it's there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting that too.
Okay, so we agree there's a road?
Salt marsh comes right up to the edge of that property. I mean, this was all grown,
Maybe we need to go take a walk.
and that's really my concern is that, because that is a direct, that flow of water is into the harbor. That's where the pond used to be, and now it's filled in with sand and it's turned into a salt marsh. And, I'm that's where I'm concerned. I'm less about the court stuff. I mean, the court's the courts and we do what we gotta do. And that's, I understand that, but just looking environmentally and that's really, that salt marsh is really, really close to that property now.
Well, once again, as indicated, the road is there. I'm not sure that's the issue in the case here. The fact is that Art has designed a compliant IA system. And B, the court has determined in this case that the regulation does not in fact mandate, and the commission was incorrect in mandating that a tight tank rather than a compliant IA system be used to correct the present situation, which obviously needs to be corrected of the technical failure.
Right, well. And it does say the word may is in there. And it does say last resort. And. Well. The board may not have considered it, and it's a specific situation, should have been considered. So go ahead, Oz.
Thank you. I would just want to follow up on the comments regarding, the tight tank district. And that some of the lots over here are much smaller than this one. And I've designed several tight tanks, and it really was last resort, or you would have been needing relief from particularly the well setback.
Right.
This lot, I think, is a different situation because of the ability to maintain that separation distance. And when you look at the regulation in terms of may versus shall, I thought that I applauded the board at the time for putting in that regulation, because it gave us the opportunity to, prior to that, it was very difficult to permit tight tanks when you actually really needed them, unless you were going to do the seasonal deed use restriction. And so it's really a great tool. It helps to protect both the on-site wells and the environment. This case, I think, is different and falls into that may instead of shall, because in this case, the separation distance for the for the Title V requirements can be met. So that's what I think makes this one a little different.
Well, I mean, a variance should be considered the specifics of the case. And I'm not sure the specifics of the case would follow.
I would point out the language in the appeals court decision. And I'm going to read, I guess, the whole last paragraph. The plaintiffs attempted to comply with the board's regulations by proposing a feasible IA system, given the size of their property, that would sufficiently reduce nitrogen levels such that a tight tank was not necessary as a last resort. As the minutes of the hearing made clear, however, the board did not consider the merits of the plaintiff's proposal. Rather, the board had adopted an internal interpretation of Reg 49 that required all properties in the tight tank district to upgrade or replace their septic systems with tight tanks without exception. The board did not treat the tight tank requirement as a last resort and made no determination whether an IA system might be feasible for the plaintiff's property. Accordingly, the board's denial of the plaintiff's application was improperly based on a policy existing outside of the regulatory framework. The decision to deny the permit on the basis of such a policy was therefore arbitrary. And then the court went on to order a remand for rehearing for further consideration consistent with this decision.
I'm not sure it was arbitrary in the minds of the board, but in the minds of the judge, it's.
I think we're at this point dealing with the mind of the judge.
Yes,
We could argue the other aspects of it back and forth all night.
I could
but-
argue a lot of
Yeah.
things about the environment.
Sure.
about Tight
Sure.
tanks versus IA systems versus a regular system and nitrogen load. I don't want to go there.
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I offered my?
I was about to ask
here?
you, Alex. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, I agree with my brother counsel's summary of, how we got here. I think I would offer one interpretation of the appeals court decision that may address an issue that hasn't been raised yet, which is the fact that the appeals court, while the court did determine that it was improper for the board to apply the tight tank regulation as a mandate across the board, the board did not, in my opinion, invalidate the board's discretion to require tight tanks. If the board believes that requiring the tight tank is necessary to meet the overall goal of the regulation, which if you look at the beginning, the purpose section of the regulation, the overall goal is to reduce nitrogen loading into this very sensitive environmental area in the watershed. So I do think the real question before the board at this point is, is the IA system adequate to meet the goal of the regulation or not? And if not, then a tight tank, I think, could be legally required, and the board could exercise its discretion to require it.
Thank you. Any comments?
Arthur, are they gonna do any construction on the house?
I'm sorry?
Are they gonna do any further construction on the house?
Nothing that would add any bedrooms, nothing that would change the existing requirements for septic flow.
Because I believe in the tight tank thing.
Right,
If you put tight tank in, you can't do any new construction at all. Correct.
yeah, that's right.
So I was just wondering if you were gonna do an IA tank, you want an IA system, don't you wanna do anything, how do you wanna?
We would certainly want to, I mean, if we have an IA system, we wouldn't be subject to that requirement. That's right. We couldn't add bedrooms. There's no way in the world we could add any bedrooms, but we
Any
could do
construction
some
automatically put you in a tight tank.
minor alterations, not adding bedrooms.
So
And that is the difference that we have here.
Mary, then I'll go back to comment on Alex.
I just think sometimes we have to look at things of like, this is what the government or legal minds say and what is the best thing for our community and island's health, and this just looks very close to the salt marsh and, it's not a ginormous lot, it's 0.37 acres. Uh, it's just concerning to me to have a septic system that close to our water. Especially given the assault our waters have already taken last week.
Well, the only thing that bothers me is we just allowed some out there to move the house, and because they had an IA system, we allowed them to put in another IA system because they're legally, they can do it. So I don't know if the way the tight tank thing says, if they put a tight tank in, they can never do any upgrades to the house at all.
I mean, that's essentially, yeah, the way that.
And that's the way the tight tank is put in, and I can't believe I'm saying this going against everybody, but that limits people to say that they can never do any, people over there with the tight tank can never do anything else to their house.
Essentially, yeah.
As opposed to an IA, what could they do?
They can do it, whatever we allow them to.
Whatever's, allowed.
Nobody could say you can have a tight tank, but you can't have a bedroom, you can't have a bathroom, or you can, any new construction. Which means anything you add on, no matter what it is, okay? With a tight tank, you can't have that because you can't have it, and they knew with a tight tank. But with an IA system, you can't. And I almost feel that they can have an IA system.
Well, you have to feel what you feel. I mean, you have a comment, Ann?
Mm-mm.
I mean, going back to what Alex said, I don't want to get into an argument about whether the amount of nitrogen load comparison between the tight tank and an IA system, it's better. I mean, so we could use the argument, as Alex pointed out, that we could say we have a tight tank because it's in the interest and what we expected and wanted to come out from the regulation. I'm not saying that right, but that's essentially what it said. So,
Well, here it says proposed system meets Title V requirements for an upgrade to this existing system. The system cannot meet the 50-foot property line setback and 150-foot well setback within the local regulation 52. However, given that the proposed systems of equivalent capacity, the proposed system meets Title V requirements for the upgrade of an existing system. The system cannot meet the 50-foot property line setback and the 150-foot well setback within the local regulation 52. So I mean, the thing is, does it need a variance above and beyond just the tight tank issue? I mean, it's not just tight tank or IA. It needs variances even for the IA because of
Local variances.
yeah. And, I'm less concerned about the court, just more concerned about these regulations in place for a reason. And, so it's not so much the court issue is this an environmentally sound plan? And that's how I'm looking at it. I mean, the court has ruled and, it's ruled. So the question is this an environmentally sound plan, especially given that we know that area is very fragile. And I still say there's no California, but I drove up across. I just drove there. But the thing is, the salt marsh is is spreading. I mean, and that is something that actually is being encouraged by the organizations is to have that turn into a salt marsh. The conservation associations.
Do the new conservation salt marsh regulations apply here?
Mr. Chairman, the limited jurisdiction for that, both under the local regulations as well as the existing and proposed local wetland regulations, would be 100-foot setback. And even if that salt marsh was moving landward, if you would, it's not going to be within 100 feet because it hasn't reached the well that's on the property, and we're more than 100 feet from that well. So I guess that's my long way of trying to make sure that I've covered your question, is that I believe that this system complies with the requirements for the wetland regulations, as well as the health regulations with respect to not having a soil absorption system within 100 feet of a wetland resource area, salt marsh or otherwise.
All right, I think we've all spoken and listened. What's the pleasure of the board? Been a quiet board.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead.
I'm just wondering if we could table this till next month to just confirm whether or not there is a California tab and not like, is there a real road there that is separating the property from the salt marsh, or is there not really a road there? I don't, it sounds like there may be some sort of overt road there. I just,
We used to go back to the Stilt House, and Stilt House is long gone, and the road that was there.
I don't know how.
Well, you can send the Roads and Right of Way Committee out there to take a look and come back with their opinion. They do that a lot. When something's technically on a map, but does not appear to.
If there is a road there or not a road there,
Does it change anything?
is that going to change our votes?
Can I say one thing?
Please.
Here's the thing that worries me. Last month, we agreed when we left a house down the road from him,
Yes,
move this house, can put an IA system in.
yes,
And now he's not moving his house, he's just fixing the septic
Yes.
system. Why can't we give him an IA system where we gave the guy one last week?
I can't disagree with you. But that's
Which-
the way we're feeling, it's how the other,
Well, which house we talking about? Arthur's, is it Arthur's house? So what?
no,
Yeah.
last.
Last meeting, and
last
we
meeting.
did, to move your house and a tight tank to be installed. That was that.
334 Matticat Road.
Yeah.
That was not in this district. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking
No,
about.
no,
Okay,
no.
I
okay,
don't think
okay,
so.
so, okay.
Where's the minutes?
Yeah, let's try to see what
We
we
did,
did here.
it, we, in the same area.
It's New Jersey Avenue.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Okay,
New Jersey, yeah.
So the question is.
Yeah.
There are two of us right now that would vote to approve the IA system. Would the other three change anything if they saw the road there?
I'm still not very supportive of this.
So it doesn't matter. to you.
No, I think I'm right, but
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I offer another?
Oh, please, yes.
So one thing to keep in mind is that, I know the board historically has, rightly or wrongly, wrongly according to the appeals court, applied this regulation as essentially a mandate for tight tanks. And I know there may be potentially some concern about, if an IA system is approved here, does that set some sort of a precedent going forward? I would note for the board, though, that I understand you're considering amending the regulations to make the language clearer for future applications that that the board does interpret and apply the regulation as requiring a tight tank in almost all circumstances. So, although we're dealing with language from the prior version of the current version of the regulations, which is discretionary, to the extent the board approves amendments that makes that language more mandatory in the future, I think that could limit the concern about setting a precedent here that might negatively impact the ability to require tight tanks in the future.
We've lost your voice.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost you, Alex.
I have a further point, actually, that ties into that, which in terms of any concern about
Sorry, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
was not a decision of the full appeals court, And although it's binding upon the parties to this case, the Huttons and the town and the Board of Health, it doesn't constitute binding precedent, unlike an appeals court case that's determined by the whole court.
Exactly.
Therefore, any worry about precedent value of what you do in this case, although the case can be cited as persuasive value, it doesn't provide any binding precedent. So therefore, it's not going to make you take any action in any other specific case that may come up later.
Alex is. Lost.
Or
Sorry,
Sorry, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Oh, great. No, I agree with what my brother counsel just stated, and just to summarize, I think that to the extent the board does approve the amendments to this regulation that kind of tightens up the language and makes it more mandatory, that really should assuage any concerns about setting a precedent here that would limit the ability to require tight tanks in the future.
right, it's the next agenda.
Well,
Right.
maybe we should delay this until we address the next agenda.
No, they would not be
About this.
The amendments would not apply to this.
It would apply to this.
So the one that we did last month was way more inland.
Yeah, it was
It was 9 New Jersey,
9 New Jersey.
and that is much further inland than for me.
Right, so. So we want to make a motion? We'll see how we go.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, one point of order. This is a question for John, actually. Is a vote required for a variance here? Or are there multiple variances that are required? Because if so, the board should make a vote, I think, first on whether to issue any necessary variances, and then a vote of whether or not to approve the IA system, depending on the variance votes.
Isn't it the same? Aren't we, since? Wasn't the original request of variance for an IA system?
Well, the original request was a variance from the requirement for a tight tank, which the appeals court determined was not appropriate. So I think the question here would be whether a variance is needed for any setbacks, wellhead setback, or
Yeah, there's.
There's those two items. There's the 150 feet.
Thank you, Alex, you're correct.
So it's really the variances needed to be able to go ahead with the project is what I think that we're actually talking about in terms of
Well,
going
why does
forward.
there need to be a new well? It doesn't look like the new well is that far from the old well.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Please, go ahead.
My recollection was a water supply quality issue at the time. I permitted that well a couple of years ago for them. I think they needed a new well for not related to the septic. So,
Well, it says, because it says existing well, proposed well.
right, this plan was done in 2020.
Okay.
So John.
So let me ask, the variance was so you didn't have to have a tight tank. But you didn't say what you would use.
Well, actually, the IA system per se wouldn't require a variance because we're saying that it at best it's a may require rather than our being in a situation of having asked for a variance from an absolute prohibition of anything other than a tight tank.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. I think a
Yeah.
variance would only be needed if there's some type of a setback issue.
50-foot property line setback and 150-foot well setback. And I'm just reading that from, who's this, dear members of the board, from, oh, I guess here.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure the date on that one. It is this 2021. So assuming the same plan, so that there's two variance issues. that would be required to go forward with the plan with putting aside all the court stuff. I mean, that's how I'm reading this, that the proposed,
So that's all we really have to do is
that's,
vote on those two variances.
am
Because
I reading this right? John?
Yeah, so, yeah, essentially. It was an appeal from a denied application.
Mhm.
This, the whole tight tank scenario, and as an IA system was proposed, so, yeah, the variances for that application would be, I mean, we don't really have an application in front of us, I don't know.
So
Well,
basically,
John, the application is the same application that was filed originally.
Okay,
Right.
so basically all we have to do is if we approve to give them the tight tank. That's all we have to do. There's no variance included in that thing at all.
right.
It's got one tight tank.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, tight tank without, yeah,
It seems, yeah, the tight tank issue seems like it's kind of parked. The courts have ruled saying that we overstepped, we misinterpreted the regulation that we wrote. We acted as a shall as opposed to may. So what's before us is the IA system, but the IA system has two variances that would be required in order to be installed.
Under the local regulation.
local, yeah.
Not Title V.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say those are pretty common, those are granted pretty.
Right.
Frequently, just because of the small lots in Nantucket, and, those are real stringent. Regulation, 50-foot setback from property lines, pretty far, but the basis for that was, based on, I think, development density in the area.
Mhm.
And all new construction going on.
Right.
So, it's still allowed for, the board to grant these variances, and actually, the previous healthcare Richard Gray had gone to the board and asked the board if we could grant these types of many of those variances in-house, just because they became so common.
Right, I remember that.
With upgrades, so. It's some of those, the 50-foot setback, setback of the reserve area, 15 feet and all that type of
I
stuff.
think I just wanted to sort out, what it is we actually are expected to act on. Because the tight tank, I don't think is an issue. I mean, the courts have said that we don't, that our route,
Is that the correct interpretation?
am I interpreting
think so.
correctly?
I'm sorry, could you give that?
Well,
please?
what we're here today, I mean, the courts have said that we essentially an overreach in interpretation.
Mhm.
So I guess we could either approach the tight tank and say you have to do it and go back to court. Or we can look at the variances needed to install an IA system.
That's basically right. I mean,
Right.
you can, obviously, right, you can take whatever action you vote to take. And
Right.
as a result of that, I think that, not to be flip about it, but if it's denied, I think, you can expect to see us in court.
I
Um,
wouldn't be flip. I just want to ask,
and
Alex, is that correct? We really only have to deal with these two variances?
So I think the board should initially vote on the variances and then have a separate vote on whether or not to approve the IA system. And in my opinion, so the board does still have some discretion under the current version of Regulation 49 to require a tight tank, but only if that tight tank is necessary as compared to the IA system to meet the overall goal of reducing nitrogen loading into this environmentally sensitive area.
It will reduce more nitrogen in the alternate design system. That's be now. Is that significant for us?
I think we're all on the same page. Yeah, you would, I mean, what would be before you would be the vote on the variances. On those, two variances that are commonly granted, I might say, as John indicated. And then a vote
Yes,
on the issuance of the IA system, which is, we've been through, is not a variance in and of itself.
no, it's not.
So I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay, and the motion is?
I said one more quick
Okay,
question.
that's-
It's currently it's a two-bedroom house?
Hmm?
The house is currently a two-bedroom or a three-bedroom
Yes.
house?
It's 3 bedroom, I believe.
Three-bedroom, okay, and the system, the IA system would still would limit that to 3 bedrooms.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a bump up room somewhere down the road.
yes.
So what did you say, Carrie? It's
Oh,
two now?
it is
It's three now.
currently 3, and the IA system.
It would
be
have to
3,
stay at three.
And it would stay at 3.
Yes,
We don't
there's
get
no
more.
way that you could get, under any applicable regulations,
Right,
that you could possibly get an additional bedroom.
we're not gonna get 3
Yeah.
bedrooms on this. No.
Right, okay.
Okay, I just
So
wanted to-
I have one other thing, which
Thank
is the thing we keep going around and around. When one system limits the nitrogen burden more than the other, how do we assess the importance?
The IA system will put less nutrients into the ground than a regular Title V system.
Right, but versus a tight tank. is what-
Well, there's nothing going in the ground.
Of course, that's right. So how do we assess the damage or the concern of allowing more to go in? And that's where I think we need guidance.
Well, we can talk about that all day. I mean, it's how often is the house used? How many nights is the house used? Does that mean since the tight tank, we're not gonna sewer the whole island, which would be a nice thing to do, but there's all kinds of ramifications of that. But tight tanks in the whole island, no, we can't do that. So I mean, it's like we should have 0 PFAS. Are we ever gonna get to 0 PFAS? It'd be nice, but maybe not. We're gonna get to 0 nitrogen loading. It'd be nice, but we never will get there completely. So assessing the ramifications on a global scale of all of Nantucket Harbor, I don't think anyone can tell the difference between this particular IA system
Right.
and a tight tank.
Gives us a choice.
It'll be different, but is it gonna be a milligram? Is it gonna be 6 tons? I don't know.
But a milligram times 1,000 milligrams is,
Yeah, but it could be, is the house gonna be used 365 days a year? Is it gonna be used 30 days a year? I mean,
maybe we need to know some of those things.
Well, but yeah.
we're never gonna know. And we could know, but it's gonna take 6 months to find that information.
And also they sell the house, a new owner uses it all year. Yeah, I mean, it can change just with ownership.
Yeah,
And
we
that's,
can't-
that's a good
yeah.
point.
Different things, so I think we just,
Can we grant variances in my motion?
I wanna,
My motion is my.
let's have his motion, vote on this motion, and then we can vote on the tight tank.
I make a motion to give them permission for tight tank.
No. That's the next vote. We're gonna vote on the variances.
All right. I make a motion that that has to be part of my motion. I wanted to make a motion to grant the variances,
Okay,
give them a tight tank with a stipulation, there'll never be another bedroom. The building will never have another bedroom. To remain in 2 bedroom. And
3
It's
bedrooms.
3.
It's 3 at present.
wait.
pardon me?
It's 3 at present.
Oh, it's 3 bedroom.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, was
Yes.
the intent of the motion to require a tight tank or an IA, approve an IA?
Yeah, you said tight tank.
Yeah. All right, so let's go through. The tight tank motion will come in the next vote. Right now, we're voting on the variances.
Right.
And the variances, its specific variances are,
50-foot property line setback. It doesn't meet that, and 150-foot well setback within local regulation 52.
did the note taker get that?
Hopefully. It's on the plan.
It's on the plan.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just quoting, what's on,
as
indicated on the plan.
do I have a second? To his motion for the variances. No second? You're not granting the variances?
Not granting the variances,
He's,
you're
he's,
saying you wanna grant the variances? or
I'm
not?
going to grant the
You
variance.
wanna allow them to have a type, or have.
we're
a
not
PI
voting on
survey.
it. Type.
No, we haven't went
You're
up there
you
yet.
want to say,
I can't have the type.
These
We're-
property,
Excuse me.
the
Whoa, whoa,
property
whoa.
setback.
We're voting on the property setback. These are variances that are commonly given, and we've done that 100 times. And some of them have never gotten to us because we've authorized the staff to in a sense grant them. We're happy to be voting on this because this is part of the whole thing. But usually this is variances are granted all the time. So do I have a second? A second, I second. All right, so we're gonna vote on the variances of the 50-foot
50 foot
setback.
setback, 50 foot.
Wait, who made the motion?
Jim,
I did.
On the setback, on the,
on the
variance.
the variances that we give
We have to
all.
go first. We have to get,
Okay.
can't give them anything unless we vote on the variance.
Yes,
Okay,
So I voted, he's second.
okay.
all in favor? Aye.
I,
And I.
No.
So 4-1. Variances are granted. Okay,
Terry voted no.
Now my motion is.
Oh, yeah, for record, yeah, I voted no.
yeah, Terry voted no.
Yeah.
Right.
4-1.
I'll
Okay,
make a motion to accept them and let them have a tight tank.
not an
IA.
altered design system.
Pardon me? I'm sorry, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I studied your red. I had to give them an IA system and, never have another bit.
Do I hear a second?
second,
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
No,
Vote is 3-2. With Terry and Ann in the negative. So the motion is passed for you to have an alternate design system and you've been granted the variances.
Thank you very much. I know this is a difficult one for everybody. I appreciate the amount of consideration and the amount of time that you've all given and that Alex has given in connection with all of this.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Alex. Because we'll move on to,
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to stick around for the discussion of the,
Rick, you can if you want, sure.
sure.
If we approve this and it's okay, we may prevent, we may not see these gentlemen discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good day.
All right. Public hearing. The change the Board of Health Regulation, Chapter 303, Nantucket Harbor Watershed, Article 4, Titan Policy. The public hearing is now open. John,
Yes.
could you explain this? It's been distributed.
Yep,
It's been published in the paper,
yes.
given notice, and I can't seem to find mine.
Yes, all the above. So as, it's recent news now, based on certain properties in the area, thought it was wise to kind of go back and take a look at this regulation and, see where maybe we could change a little bit of the language, to close things up a little bit. So, I worked on, several revisions to this, with town council as well, so, reviewed it, and, I think it incorporates, some minor changes, but, significant.
Well, there's a couple of changes that I looked at. One of them is that in the way it sits now, if you sell your house over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, let's
Yeah,
get public
put a
comment.
tight tank.
Let's get public comment first.
Okay.
Because this is a public hearing.
if you sell your house now, according to the way the tight tank is written. You have to change, if you buy the house, you have to put a tight tank in.
We'll get to that. Okay, is there any public comment? Is there anybody out there?
I don't have any, maybe Art wants to speak on it, sure.
No, I was just gonna follow
He's
along.
back.
No, I just need to say.
We're at a public hearing with public comment, and I'm dying for someone to speak. Okay. Now, since there's been no public comment, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make that.
And second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman says aye, the public hearing is closed. Now we can discuss it. James, you had a question.
Yes, the way the tight tank thing is written right now. You sell your house over there, you have to put a tight tank. But when you do that, the tight tank regulation says, if you buy a piece of land over there and it's empty, you can't build on it because tight tank regulation doesn't allow any building.
Okay,
Right?
Right,
Right, you wouldn't be allowed in,
You wouldn't be allowed, you buy the land, but you can't build a house.
let's not.
oh, well, yeah. Oh, sorry, were you saying a vacant?
You said
Lot.
a vacant lot,
Yeah,
if you buy a vacant lot,
yes, by definition, yes.
definition says you can't build on it, because if you have a tight tank, you can't build.
what?
Is there open land over there?
Yeah,
There's a few open lots.
there's a few open lots.
So that's somehow, that doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't
It's
make
not fair at
sense.
all.
It makes no sense. I don't really even understand what you're saying, Jim.
Tell what I'm saying.
So if you have a vacant piece of property, and
Right,
if it's 10,000 square feet, and you'd be allowed one bedroom. The whole area is a tight tank district.
Right.
If you're not, by Title V, you can't do new construction on a tight tank, so you can't add a bedroom.
oh,
Yeah, so you can't build a house.
you could build a house, but it'd be a very small house.
Well, you couldn't have a house essentially.
You couldn't have a
You could
house.
have like a garage or a boat storage
Sure.
building or something of that
No, we
nature.
have to change, that's what I'm saying, we have to change, there's a lot of stuff in there we have to change for the tight tank thing. It's all over the place.
But I mean, tight tanks can't be used as a system. You know, you can't demolish a house over there and build a whole new house that's, 1,000 square feet larger than the first one, add a full foundation and everything. Just having a tight tank there, that's not the intent, the intent is still that the tight tank is a last resort option.
Yeah.
Um,
In 30321A, the new red stuff says, Nantucket tight tank district shall cause the system to be abandoned and replaced with a tight tank system upon hydraulic failure, technical failure, new construction, and any condition. So new construction is in the part of the regulation. Later on, though, it says that tight tanks can't be used for new construction.
Right,
So
No, I say
when I was reading it, that I'm confused about section A. And then I guess it's section D. Tight tanks will not be allowed for new construction. So I'm not sure what new construction is referring to in A.
House, you buy an empty lot and you wanna build a house, that's new construction.
Didn't it say it
What
could
it should
be?
say is if you build a house, a new house on an empty lot, you must use tight tank. That's what it should say. But it says now, you cannot build a tight tank.
So we just changed that language.
So we change it so it's just for a specific lot and not for the whole, I mean, a lot of this is getting very close to the water, so is there a way to just identify the lots that actually have no building on them and say,
well, it's in Title V, but there's no new construction on it.
It all says if you sell your house, you have to put a tight tank.
Is Alex still there? Alex?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am.
Do you have a copy of this?
Was trying to find it in my emaos.
It's in the package.
So what I can say probably in that section is that was a bit of probably a copy and paste on my part from the Nantucket Harbor watershed regulation,
which is,
which includes construction.
Yes, it's under,
So that's probably just a.
Yeah.
let me read this thing right here. It says, tight tank district shall cause a system, any system abandoned and replaced with a tight tank system upon hydraulic failure. Not, it shouldn't say that. New construction, any condition requiring repair, upgrade of the system, air or transfer of property on which the board has determined upgrade. And it goes on to say that if you sell your house, you have to transfer, there it is, transfer of property.
Correct, yeah.
So if you sell your house, they have
Yeah.
to transfer it and put it in a tight tank.
Right,
And if you put a tight tank in it, you can't build anything else on it.
right. But again, that doesn't address the vacant lot issue, which you brought up, which is if the lot is vacant already
Yeah.
and you can't build.
You can't build anything on it.
Right,
So we have to go through that whole fact, we have to go through this thing.
I can email you more of the parts of Title V, if that'll help.
yeah, because that comes from the existing state regulations. Am I correct?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, we can't put in provisions that are less stringent than Title V.
Right,
So if Title V says that if a tight tank is required, there can be no new construction, we have to abide by that.
Yeah, so it's 260 tight tanks in Title V. Tight
So
tanks,
how can you abide by that if you buy an empty lot?
you can't,
You can't.
it's,
It's unbuildable.
So people that own that property can't sell it.
that's not right.
They can't even build a house on it for themselves.
They could sell it to the land bank or the conservation
Oh, yeah,
foundation. I
true.
mean, I think we ran into this
And-
issue in Tom Nevers where there was a lot that was unbuildable because all of the wells and septics were so intertwined that you couldn't
and I know in
build.
our,
It was, I mean, these aren't new lots.
Yeah, I can see how it happens that way, but if you have a lot over there that's 10,000 square feet.
right,
And you, normally you could build a house on there, because if it's under the tight tank rule, you can't.
I mean, you know, essentially, I guess with the local regulation, would be similar to that whole scenario. They'd have to ask for a variance if the lot is over 10, over, you know, if it's large enough to accommodate an IEA system. You know, roughly, let's just say 7,000 square feet would be close. You know, they'd have to ask for a variance to have an IEA in order to build on that property, so they need a variance from the regulation.
Or you put in the regulations that any empty lot that is gonna have a new building on it must use a tight tank.
But you can't do that by Title V. Title V is, tight tank shall not be approved for new construction or increased flow to existing systems, except as approved by the approving authority.
Well, I think the problem here is this language is very inconsistent. There are places where it seems to allow it. There are places where it seems not to allow it. And that is what we have to
Right.
sort of straighten out.
Right.
I mean, there are unbuildable lots in many places on the island. I mean, I know in our street I'm on, there's 3. And when you look at the land map, it says unbuildable. Yeah, that's, someone owns it, yeah, someone owns it, but it's unbuildable.
This is,
So,
Right now, if you have a Title V system over there and it works perfect, you sell your house, you have to
Put a
get
tight
rid of
tank.
it and put a tight tank in.
Mhm.
That's ridiculous.
well,
But that's the rule. That's the
well, the
regulation.
thing is that goes from some
They
nitrogen.
can't force you from taking a system that is approved. I can see if it failed. But if you get a.
But it's
Title
not
V
approved for that area.
Yeah, but you can't do that afterwards. You have to sell them before. Like if you sell the house, or if the system fails, then you can't put an IA in. Then you're gonna have to put a tight tank in. You can't just go out and say, everyone's gotta have a tight tank.
no, I agree.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't have to upgrade it to, or
Right.
change it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if there's any change, you have to.
Well, if I sell,
Because, a lot of this is gonna start to come up now, won't it? And we gotta know what we're talking about.
So can we review this at our next meeting?
Well, I think we got to identify the issues that are causing us to be stuck. I mean, we thought it was clear, going from may to shall clear things up and, it's absolute, but what we're saying is that there seems to be situations where it's not absolute still. And, one is a vacant lot that could be built on, and the second would be the transfer of property the transfer requires you to switch from a potentially compliant IA system to a tight tank.
All right, this is what we're gonna do. Usually when we do these, it's usually little amendments but this could be a major
Yeah,
amendment. I don't think this is ready for prime time. I unfortunately closed the public hearing. I'd like to vote to open the public hearing and continue this.
Motion to open the public meeting.
To
Public
reopen
hearing.
the hearing.
And then revamp
We'll
the,
just reopen the public hearing.
yeah.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're gonna continue, the public hearing was continued. And your homework is to go back and look at this.
And I guess, part of it is what stuff comes from the state that is not fixed,
Well,
we can't go below, so.
well, that's what Alex just
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
that there are certain things we cannot, no matter, even if we want to,
Right.
we can't change.
We can't change,
So what are those things? Do we know that?
That's right.
well, essentially, we can't make them less strict than the state.
Right,
You can't allow new construction and require a tight tank.
You can ask for it from SDP the same way that the tight tank all got approved, the whole district,
So,
as I said, it's pretty much going.
After 5 hours last night and 2 hours today, I can't.
So-
I'm happy to spend a little more time with John looking through this, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I think that's really the right
Sometimes
approach.
we just slug through this and write it out here and redo it. I'm just not up.
Yeah, no,
I think
mean,
that's the right approach.
Just so I'm clear on everyone's concerns, it sounds like the main two concerns are the provisions related to transfers of property, and then how the regulation would apply to undeveloped lots in the.
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, and to make this language consistent across the board so that it makes sense and to protect, for me, the original intent of the rules,
Yes.
and not be always having to make variances and stuff like this.
Well,
I mean,
that's
that rules had an intent.
the idea.
We need to honor them.
This revision is we would not have to deal with Arthur and his group again. And it'd be clear to us, so we really just need to get the may and last resort out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all we really need to do, I think.
Under one other thing that I think we discussed the other day was changing the overall purpose of the regulation from reducing nitrogen loading to eliminating.
Eliminating.
Yeah.
That's in my notes, yes.
Well, if that's our purpose, then we need to make that be our purpose.
Yes, so,
And that sort of impacts what we're gonna do and how we're gonna say
all
it.
right, so Alex and John are going to redo the purpose, get rid of the may and last resort. That's all we really need to do. And I'd appreciate if you put this high on the agenda next time, not last.
Okay.
Yeah,
You do that.
I'm sorry, I just really all of a sudden
well,
trashed. Okay, so next is
Right.
director's report. Any general comments from the board?
My comment is Julie walked in. We're gonna talk about that. Sorry.
Yeah, well, James is concerned that all the short-term rental regulations from the health department or the board of health.
And I'll tell you why, because everything that's in there that they want us to do not the town meeting, by year before, they wanted the same thing. Okay, and I remember meeting with them and Matt Fee, I said, Matt, you got one of the things you want us to be responsible for, is parking cars. And he said, no, that's pretty stupid. And basically, you got the same stuff in there, and it looks to me, if you read these, all they're trying to do is drop this whole thing for this short-term rentals in our face. And I don't think we should have anything to do with it. Nothing. None of the stuff in here that they want us to do is our job.
Yeah.
None of it.
I'll work on that. It's not gonna be fixed by September, but we can fix it long term.
Parking, if there's not enough parking, then they're.
They want-
As I'm going to reference the airport, if if there's not enough parking, then they are saying the planes will be idling. If there's not enough parking on the street, then all of these cars that come over for these STRs will be driving around constantly looking for parking, causing more air quality issues. I do think that it's getting dumped on the health department though.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do. Any other, John, any issue?
No, it's been like a busy week. Weeks felt like almost like a month. So, you know, it all started and, yeah. It's busy.
All right,
But, hopefully we should have a new health director soon, I've been told, so everything seems to be set.
yes, some of us accept,
Set in stone,
some of
so
us
Are we
accept.
allowed to know about that?
Hasn't been officially announced.
it hasn't been officially, but, sounds like everything's all secured, so.
He's managed through the 2-week review from the select board. They don't approve, but they can disapprove. I understand.
So that 15-day or whatever it was
That's gone.
period is over,
That's over, as
and he accepted the job?
far as I know.
Okay, so it's just a question of making the announcement.
Right, yeah, and when I start, so.
Okay, I have nothing else.
You know, I just had the one thing I mentioned about the septic loan that we talked about,
Yes.
Yeah.
adjusting that, just so that the resident, non-occupied, non-owner occupied,
Okay.
and then so to add that second one in. So 50% is non-resident,
50% non-resident.
100% resident.
Correct, yeah.
And that one where if you're a resident, but it's not owner occupied, it's a rental property.
Okay.
And we had,
What?
huh? I'll send you an email, because we had talked,
Yeah.
yeah,
Resident, but you don't own it?
This, Jack, could you talk to our legal?
that's illegal,
That may be
discriminatory. essentially.
discriminatory.
Yeah.
It was one of the issues with the short-term rental discussion. Of differentiating
Yeah.
residents and non-residents of owners.
Yeah.
So that needs to be vetted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, it just, if it is doable, that, if you're using for rental property, we're not gonna give you 100% of the loan.
I know.
Yeah. But it's gotta be fair.
It may be illegal.
One of the other things we were.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Lighting.
Yeah,
Anybody want to go home?
that would be nice.
Make a motion to adjourn
Do I have a
the current meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. We're done.
All right.
I'm on my way.
Oh, you're supposed to be some.
You guys took a little bit of. You guys took a little bit of a beating.
It's part of the job.
Well, I guess maybe the senior